They are 7 footballers who together perfectly represent the 7 deadly sins, and I will be going over them all, starting with the sin of pride. Pride is defined as an overestimation of one's own abilities and a belief that one is essentially better than others. A footballer whose abilities hasn't justified his enormous ego is Andre Onana. Andre Onana represents everything a modern goalkeeper could be: comfortable with the ball at his feet, can make pinpoint long passes, and has a personality. When he signed for Manchester United in the summer of 2023, it looked like a match made in heaven. United was in need of a ball-playing goalkeeper. David De Gea had just cost them the Europa League. Although he had been a great shot stopper in previous years, his abilities didn't age well with the modern game. Onana coming in to replace De Gea under Erik ten Hag, a coach he enjoyed success with at Ajax, seemed like a step in the right direction. However, in just 2 years into his United career, Onana has become a walking meme. And a major reason for this decline is tied to his obsession with being the main character. For Onana, being the guy who only stayed in between the sticks while the game went on wasn't going to be enough. During his first preseason at United, Onana showed warning signs of a goalkeeper who overestimated himself. In a friendly against Real Madrid, he came off his line, allowing Bellingham to chip the ball for Madrid's opening goal. Madrid went on to secure a 2-0 victory. However, Onana's ball-playing skills was so impressive that it insulated him from any criticism. In the following game against Lens, he would come off his line again to concede a goal from a long-range effort, but this time he became a meme. That moment would set the precedent for his United career. His first season at United was nothing short of underwhelming, making goalkeeping errors that cost the team. A notable instance was his performance against Galatasaray in the Champions League, where his goalkeeping errors squandered United's 2-goal lead and subsequent elimination at the group stage of the competition. United would manage to salvage a disappointing season by winning the FA Cup against bitter rivals Manchester City. When he was asked about the criticism he endured all through the season, he replied nonchalantly and without remorse.
And people can say what they want, I don't care. I just do my thing. If you are angry, it's your problem. If you are happy, it's your problem. So for me, doesn't matter. I only take the critic from the coaches. For the rest, they can sing, they can cry. I don't give shit.
Yeah. And you don't give a shit that you're playing less than...
This is my life. Let me write my story. So let them say what they want. No problem.
At the start of the following season, Onana boldly declared in an interview that he would be taking more risk.
And on a personal level, how confident are you going into your second season at United?
Me?
Yeah.
Very, 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 very positive. Very, very confident. Like I said already, I know the country, I know the league, and I will take a lot of risk. I will assume a lot of risk like I used to do in the past. And you will see this in the pitch.
Despite his best effort, his second season wasn't much different from the previous one. With United firmly rooted in the second half of the table, the highlight of Onana's season came from his spat with Lyon midfielder Nemanja Matic. Before United's Europa League quarterfinal against Lyon, Onana boldly claimed an underperforming Manchester United was still better than Lyon. "It is more about us. I think we are better than them. We just have to go there and show who we are." His statement led to a clapback from Matic, who implied Onana was the worst goalkeeper in United's history.
I respect everyone, but to say that, then you need to get the answer. If you are one of the worst goalkeepers in Man United history, you need to take care what you are talking. If David De Gea or Peter Schmeichel or Van der Sar said that, then I will question myself. But if you are one of the statistically the worst goalkeepers in Man United modern history, then he needs to show that before he says. So we will see.
Onana would respond with a picture of him kissing the FA Cup with a cryptic caption, "At least I've lifted trophies with the greatest club in the world. Some can't say the same." When both teams finally met on the night, Onana would go on to prove Matic right with 2 catastrophic errors that cost United 3 crucial points. This led to him being dropped from the team in the following game against Newcastle, with many United fans now wanting to see him leave their club.
Now get in the comments down below, how much do you reckon we could even get for Andre Onana? At this point, I'd be happy to take a loss. We misprofiled you for the team that we have, and it didn't work. Wish you all the best. Onana will be on a good pay packet over in Saudi, and hopefully, has a good end to the rest of his career. Apparently, he's a nice guy. It's just not worked out in Manchester United, and that is okay. Well, it's not okay. It's not okay for now because it's cost us. It's cost us a lot.
In less than 2 seasons, Onana went from a world-class goalkeeper who embodied what it meant to be a modern goalkeeper to a walking meme who is now considered not good enough to play at the highest level. Another footballer who has also experienced a sharp decline is the one I chose to represent the sin of wrath. Wrath is defined as an uncontrolled feeling of vengeful anger, rage, and even hatred. A footballer whose quest for revenge unsettled his career is João Felix. João Felix's meteoric rise through Benfica's youth system made him one of the most sought-after talent in Europe. At just 19, his 20 goals were crucial in winning Benfica the Portuguese league. In addition to his enormous talent, Felix also had a fiery side. This blend of talent and teenage rebellion made him a perfect fit for Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, a coach who is also known for being feisty on the sidelines. And in the summer of 2019, Felix joined Atleti for a record transfer fee of 126 million euros. Life at Atletico started off to a blistering start. He went on to win the European Golden Boy in his first season and was crucial in winning Atletico Madrid their first La Liga title in 7 years. However, as he became crucial for the team, he also became insufferable. Whenever he got substituted, he would fail to control his emotions and throw temper tantrums that felt very disrespectful. In a game against Atletico Bilbao in 2021, after receiving a second yellow card, he gestured provocatively at the referee, which landed him a 2-match ban. Also, his relationship with Diego Simeone began to deteriorate. Simeone wasn't pleased with his defensive contribution, as Felix preferred a more free-flowing style of football where he wasn't burdened with defensive duties. As their relationship deteriorated further, Felix saw less game time, and in the January 2023 transfer window, Felix joined Chelsea on loan. He would endure a hard start at Chelsea as he was sent off on his debut after going studs first into Fulham midfielder Kenny Tete. At the end of his loan spell, his 4 goals in 20 appearances weren't enough for Chelsea to sign him, so he went back to Atletico. Still not seeing eye to eye with the manager, he joined club rivals Barcelona on loan. At Barca, Felix was more than motivated for revenge. He scored the only goal in a hard-fought 1-0 victory against Atletico and went on to celebrate in front of the fans, symbolically burning every bridge to his parent club. And 4 months later in the reverse fixture, he would open the scoring in another 3-0 win against Atleti. Despite his 16-goal contribution that season, Barca didn't sign him. That summer, he would return to Chelsea on a permanent transfer but struggled for playing time, and in the January transfer window, he was once again loaned to AC Milan. In what is supposed to be the prime years of his career, Felix's valuation has dropped significantly as he is now worth 25 million euros, a far cry from his initial 126 million euros record fee. Talking about prime years, the next player on my list is another young talent who also found it difficult to reach the peak of his potential, and he is the player who represents the sin of sloth. Sloth is defined as the reluctance to work or make any effort, also known as laziness. A player who became reluctant over the years is Marcus Rashford. Rashford's footballing journey is one filled with grit and determination. He grew up in Wythenshawe, Manchester, in a household where his mum had to skip meals so that he could eat. It was this tough upbringing that ignited his passion to become a professional footballer and put his family in a better place. He excelled in Manchester United's youth ranks, and when he was given his league debut against Arsenal in 2016, he made the most of it, scoring 2 goals and providing 1 assist to hand United a 3-2 victory. His breakout season would see him heralded as the future of Manchester United, and for a while he lived up to the hype. In the 2022-23 season, he would go on to score 30 goals and provide 12 assists in all competitions. A performance that earned him an improved 5-year, £325,000 a week contract. However, in the seasons that followed in what was supposed to be his prime years, his performances lacked the determination of his earlier years. Sometimes he was basically walking on the pitch while the game went on. He no longer tracked back to help defend and was easily bullied off the ball. He would show flashes of his talent in moments, but his all-round game was poor. Off the pitch, his attitude wasn't any better. In 2023, after a crushing 3-0 loss to bitter rivals Manchester City, Rashford went ahead with his pre-planned birthday party, which drew a lot of criticism from the media.
Marcus Rashford had a party hours after the derby on Sunday night. Were you aware of that?
Yes, I am aware of it. I spoke with him about it, and it's unacceptable.
Rashford would eventually fall out with newly appointed head coach Ruben Amorim, who accused Rashford of having a nonchalant attitude in training after leaving him out of United's 3-0 win against Man City.
Ruben, you made a very bold call leaving Marcus and Alejandro out the squad altogether. Could I ask why that was?
They are fighting for the places, but for me it's important the performance in training, the performance in game, the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you engage with the teammates, the way you push your teammates. everything is important, we have to put the standards really high. And for that, they have to fight for the place in the team. And today the team proved that we can leave anyone outside the squad. You can manage to win if we play together.
In response, Rashford released a statement suggesting he was ready for a new chapter in his career. For me personally, I think I am ready for a new challenge. When I leave, there is not going to be any hard feelings. He would go on to join Aston Villa on loan, where he has been prolific so far and have shown signs of a player who still has a lot to offer. Despite his shortcomings, Rashford is a player who has a big heart and makes it easy to root for him. While Rashford is still very much beloved, the next player on my list is quite the opposite, and he is the player that represents the sin of greed. Greed is defined as an intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth or power. A player whose legacy was erased for wanting more is Ashley Cole, or as Arsenal fans like to call him Cashley Cole. Just like Rashford, Cole suffered a troubled childhood. His father left when he was just 7, leaving his mum to cater for him and his younger brother. Like most underprivileged children, Cole saw football as a part to a better life, and by 9 he was scouted into Arsenal's youth academy. In 1999, at just 18, he made his professional debut and a year later signed a £27,000 per week contract, which at the time was life-changing money for him and his family. Cole would go on to play a crucial role in what is regarded as the most successful era in the club's history. From 1999 to 2006, Ashley Cole was an integral part of Arsenal's Invincibles team that won 2 Premier League titles, 3 FA Cups, and took Arsenal to their first Champions League final. However, despite the immense success, Cole felt undervalued as a homegrown talent, and rightly so. At the time, Arsenal was studded with foreign stars who were kept on ridiculously high wages. Cole's £27,000 per week wage felt like an injustice when compared to fellow teammates like Thierry Henry, who was on £112,000 per week, and as his contract neared renewal, Cole demanded £65,000 per week, a wage Arsenal wasn't willing to pay him. At a time when London rivals Chelsea had just won the league title under new owner Roman Abramovich, a Russian billionaire who was more than motivated to end Arsenal's reign of dominance, a disgruntled Ashley Cole became an easy transfer target. And in the summer of 2005, Cole was fined £75,000 by the FA for holding talks with Chelsea's representatives without informing Arsenal. Cole eventually signed for Chelsea in 2006 and went on to enjoy a whopping £120,000 per week contract. To the disappointment of Arsenal fans, he was also very successful at Chelsea, winning the 2009 Premier League title, 4 FA Cups, making him the most successful player in the history of the competition, and was an integral part of the Chelsea team that won the club's first Champions League title. Reflecting on how he left Arsenal, Cole has always maintained he felt betrayed by his boyhood club.
Look, ultimately, I felt disrespected, or, this is my point of view. I felt disrespected, and I didn't ask for Henry's, Vieira's. I did not want that. It's nothing to do with them in my case. So mine was, I know what I'm worth. If you don't want to pay it, no problem. But even that, we did agree to pay it. Everything was agreed, and then you pulled the rug under me. Sorry, but...
Cole wouldn't be the only player who wanted more. The next player on my list is another Englishman who couldn't control his desires, and he is the footballer who represents the sin of lust. Lust is defined as an intense or unrestrained sexual craving. A player whose insatiable sexual desires clouded his football legacy is Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker is arguably the best fullback of the modern era, and definitely one to rely on to win crucial duels in big moments. But just like most footballers who got rich at an early age, his newfound wealth only enabled his obsession. Walker met his high school sweetheart Annie Kilner when he was 17. The pair went on to have 4 children together. However, their relationship has been far from a fairy tale. Walker showed early signs of infidelity after he was caught sending intimate messages to popular Playboy model Carla Howe before England's Euro 2016 opener against Russia. Howe claimed she stopped responding to Walker's advances after learning he had a partner and a child. Despite the backlash, this would mark the beginning of Walker's sexual odyssey. 3 years later, in 2019, Annie ended things with Walker after learning he cheated on her with Ex on the Beach star Laura Brown. While being separated from Annie and his 2 kids in what was supposed to be an introspective period, Walker impregnated another English model, Lauren Goodman, and as if that was not enough, he would come under heavy criticism after he broke COVID-19 protocols to host 2 escorts at his villa. He reportedly paid the escorts over £2,000 in hush money, but as the matter became inevitably public, he tendered a public apology. I understand that my position as a professional professional footballer brings a responsibility of being a role model. As such, I want to apologize to my family, friends, and club supporters for letting them down. My actions are in direct contrast to what I should have been doing during the lockdown. His apology seemed genuine, and it looked like he was ready to turn a new leaf. He reconciled with Annie and they got married in November 2021. Despite the genuine desire to be better, Walker couldn't tame his urges and went back to seeing Lauren Goodman, who at the time already had a son with him. Walker successfully maintained this double life for a while until late 2022, when he received a phone call from Lauren Goodman telling him she was pregnant for their second child. Walker intended keeping it from his wife, but his mistress, now tired of living in the shadows, broke the news to Annie. In response, Annie put out a statement on her Instagram: "Sadly, after many years of marriage and 3 wonderful children together, I have decided to take some time away from Kyle." Walker would move out of their £4.3 million Cheshire mansion, with Annie filing for a £27 million divorce settlement. In the heat of the scandal, a video of Walker exposing himself indecently while groping and kissing an unknown woman at a bar also went viral. In a bid to salvage his reputation, Walker would once again tender a public apology.
I feel that my family, the children, have been put through enough, and there's questions that need to be, answered within, my private life. I've had a second child, and, hurting my best friend. That's something that I need to probably find within myself, that why I've done this and why situations have occurred, that I am human and I do make mistakes.
It didn't look like Annie was going to forgive him this time, and it is safe to say she didn't buy the apology either. However, in late 2024, a period where Walker was heavily linked to a £400,000 per week contract in the Saudi League, she dropped the divorce proceedings. This coincidence raised concerns if she genuinely accepted him back or just buying time to get a bigger paycheck at the end of his career. Well, only time can tell. Talking about time, the next footballer on my list is an all-time great, and he is the footballer that represents the sin of gluttony. Gluttony is characterized by excessive consumption and overindulgence in anything due to indiscipline. A player whose overindulgence ruined his career is Diego Maradona. Maradona is arguably the biggest talent to ever grace a football pitch. While his achievement may look inferior when compared to the likes of Messi and Ronaldo, what he won and how he won them were far more impressive. Maradona grew up in the tough neighborhood of Fiorito, a suburb of Buenos Aires that was riddled with drug and gang culture. In a bid to protect him from gangs, Maradona's parents encouraged him to play football. At the age of 8, he would pass a tryout at Argentine juniors and would go on to dominate Argentine football in his teenage years, scoring 143 goals and winning the Argentine League title with Boca Juniors before joining Barcelona for a then record fee of £5 million in 1982. While football saved Maradona from the gangs, it couldn't save him from himself. He fell in love with the Barcelona nightlife and quickly developed a reputation as a party boy. Also, his performances on the field didn't do justice to his larger-than-life persona, and he was frequently out-injured. This inevitably led to tensions between him and the club management, as Barca's president Luis Núñez would go out to publicly criticize Maradona. A player must not only play football but also live an acceptable life. If he does not understand this, the best thing for him is to leave the club. Maradona would fire back, "I don't program anyone's life, and I don't want anyone to program my life." The feeling of being unloved and the frequent injuries he endured was too much for Maradona to deal with, so he started doing drugs to sedate himself. In his 2 years at Barcelona, he never really settled, although he won the Copa del Rey. The highlight of his time at Barca was his brawl in the 1984 Copa del Rey final against Atletico Bilbao. That would become his final appearance for Barca, as he signed for Napoli the following season. In what was supposed to be a fresh start in Italy, Maradona became the prized jewel of the Camorra cartel, who were affiliated with Napoli in the 80s and were rumored to have provided Napoli with his £7 million transfer fee. The cartel were very much aware of his cocaine addiction and provided him with all the drugs he needed. In return, associating with Maradona endeared them to the people. His time at Napoli was the height of his drug addiction, but it was also the most successful period of his career. In his third season in 1986, he scored 17 goals and provided 7 assists to win Napoli their first league title. That same year, he guided Argentina to a second World Cup title. Napoli would go on to win a UEFA Cup title and another league title in 1989. However, in the years that followed, Maradona's drug addiction worsened and he began to miss games. In March 1991, he failed a doping test and was handed a 15-month ban by the Italian Football Federation. Upon the expiration of his ban, he joined Sevilla, but this time he was only a mere shadow of his former self, as he was visibly overweight and struggled to keep up with the physicality of the league. He would spend a season in Spain before going back to Argentina at the age of 33. He went on to have stints at Newell's Old Boys and his former club Boca Juniors before hanging his boots in 1997. For the insane talent he had, if he could have controlled himself the way he controlled the ball, there was no doubt he could have been so much more. Despite his inadequacies, Maradona is still very much beloved by everyone except the next footballer on my list who represents the sin of envy. Envy is defined as resentment over the blessings and achievements of others. A player who couldn't let go of his resentment is Terry Butcher. Butcher, as the name suggests, is regarded as one of the toughest defenders of his era. He was committed to a fault and was ready to throw himself at danger. One of the highlights of his career was his performance against Sweden in the 1989 World Cup qualifier. After sustaining a head injury in the early minute of the game, Butcher got stitched up and continued contesting for headers like nothing happened. As a result, he got drenched in his own blood. In the peak of his powers, he was part of the Ipswich side that won the UEFA Cup in 1981 and went on to captain Scottish side Rangers to 3 league titles. Despite a very successful career, one moment has continued to haunt Terry Butcher even years after he hung up his boots. England's 1986 World Cup semi-final against Argentina was the biggest game of Butcher's career, a match he was tasked with curbing and informed Diego Maradona, and if there was anybody who could have stopped Maradona at the tournament, it was Terry Butcher. But as the game started, Maradona proved to be too much trouble. Just 6 minutes into the second half, Maradona would take advantage of a defensive error to hand the ball into the net. At a time where there was no VAR, the goal, despite being heavily contested, was giving, and 4 minutes later, Maradona would rob salt on English wounds in what is now regarded as the goal of the century. Maradona picked the ball from midfield, got away from 2 English players before running towards Butcher and turning him inside out. He went past the final defender and the goalkeeper. Butcher would attempt a last-ditch tackle, but it didn't stop Maradona from poking the ball into the net. England would pull one back through Gary Lineker in the 81st minute, but Maradona's goal proved to be the difference as Argentina went through to the final with a 2-1 victory. It was a tough defeat to take, especially as Argentina went on to win the tournament. 36 years later, after Maradona's death in November 2022, his Hand of God ball was placed on auction in London. Terry Butcher would grace the occasion, and when he was asked about the incident, he couldn't hide his resentment.
Rewind back to 1986, England knocked out by that now infamous Hand of God moment where Diego Maradona controversially punched the ball into the net. Now that ball is now up for auction. Terry, let's come to you first of all. I'm very familiar with what your memories are of that game and post-match as well, Terry. So talk us through what they were on that day.
I can't really describe them because I'd have to swear, I think, so it's best not to say that, but it's actually really spooky with the ball being in the same room as the ball. I think we only touched it about 5 times, didn't we? So, you know, I don't want to touch it because it's like bittersweet, but it's a big sense of injustice for the English, and yeah, I did say to him when I was at a head, I did signal head or hand, and he said head. So if he had said hand, I would have killed him. That second goal is a nightmare for me. I've been having therapy for 36 years because he didn't beat me once, he beat me twice. And then I tried to get back and I couldn't touch it. I'd love to have scored the greatest own goal in the world and deprived him of it.
I guess you can't really blame Terry Butcher for being spiteful of a player who denied him of the only trophy he ever came close to winning with his country. If you enjoyed the video, do well to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.